There are things in this world that can be seen: wars, storms, destruction. You can prepare for them, you can fight them, you can run from them. But there is something far more dangerous than anything you can see, something that appears before the battle even begins, something that exists inside you. Phobos was not just a god, he was fear itself, not the kind of fear that comes after something happens, but the kind that comes before it. The moment your heart starts beating faster, the moment your thoughts begin to race, the moment you realize something is wrong, that is where Phobos lives. He was the son of Ares, the god of war. But unlike his father, he did not fight on the battlefield. He did not need weapons, strength, or power in the way other gods did, because fear does not need force. It spreads on its own. Wherever Ares went, Phobos followed, not as a warrior, but as a presence. Before swords were raised, before armies clashed, before the first attack, fear would already be there. In the minds of soldiers, in their hands, in the silence before the chaos. This is what made him so powerful, because a battle can be won or lost before it even begins. A strong army can fall apart if fear takes control. A single doubt can break even the most disciplined warrior. And once fear spreads, it cannot be easily stopped. Phobos did not choose sides. He did not care who won. He simply appeared where fear could grow, and once it did, everything else followed. There are stories of armies standing face to face, equal in strength, equal in numbers. But in the final moments before the fight, something shifted. One side hesitated. One side felt something they could not explain. Their grip weakened, their confidence disappeared, and in that moment, they had already lost, not because they were weaker, but because fear had taken control. Phobos was not loud. He did not announce his presence. He did not need to, because everyone already knew the feeling. That moment when your body reacts before your mind understands why. That moment when you want to move, but can't. That moment when you realize you are not in control anymore. And that is when fear becomes something else, not just a reaction, but a force. Fear does not need a reason to exist. It does not wait for danger to arrive. It does not ask whether the threat is real. It simply appears, and once it does, everything begins to change. This is where Phobos becomes more than just a presence. He becomes control. Because the moment fear enters the mind, it starts to reshape reality. Thoughts become distorted. Small risks begin to feel overwhelming. Decisions that once seemed simple become impossible to make. And the most dangerous part, it feels real. A warrior may be strong, trained, prepared for battle. But when fear takes hold, strength becomes hesitation, training becomes doubt, and confidence disappears faster than it was built. Phobos does not attack the body, he attacks the mind. There are stories of soldiers who stood ready, shield in hand, weapon raised. They had faced danger before. They had survived. But something about this moment felt different. Their breathing changed. Their focus broke. Their thoughts turned against them. What if I fail? What if I die? What if this is the end? These thoughts do not come from logic. They come from fear, and once they appear, they spread from one person to another, from one thought to the next, until the entire army feels it. This is how battles are lost without a single strike. This is how Phobos wins, not through destruction, but through collapse. Because when fear spreads, people stop thinking clearly. They react instead of act. They make decisions based on survival, not strategy. And in doing so, they create the very outcome they were trying to avoid. They run when they should stand. They hesitate when they should move. They doubt when they should trust themselves. And in those moments, fear becomes reality. But Phobos is not limited to war. He exists in every part of life where uncertainty exists. Before a decision, before a risk, before something important, that moment when everything is on the line, and your mind begins to work against you, that is where he is. And unlike other gods, you cannot escape him by running away, because wherever you go, your mind goes with you. This is what makes Phobos so different from Moros. Moros waits at the end, Phobos appears before it. He is the moment where everything can still change, but might not. And that is what makes him dangerous, because fear does not just reflect reality. It creates it, and once it does, it becomes very hard to tell the difference between what is real and what you only believe is real. Fear does not always look like panic. Sometimes, it looks like silence, the kind of silence where everything feels still, but something is wrong, where nothing has happened yet, but your mind is already preparing for the worst, where the danger is not in front of you, but inside you. This is where Phobos is strongest, not when you are already running, not when the chaos has begun, but in the moment before everything changes, because that is the moment where you still have a choice to act, or to hesitate, and fear decides which one you take. There were warriors who faced impossible battles and still moved forward, not because they were fearless, but because they acted despite it. And there were others, just as strong, just as capable, who froze, not because they were weak, but because fear reached them first. That is the difference, not strength, not skill, but control. Phobos does not need to defeat you, he only needs you to hesitate, just for a second, because 1 second is enough. One moment of doubt, one hesitation, one thought that breaks your focus, and everything can fall apart. This is why fear is one of the most powerful forces that exists, not because it is stronger than you, but because it can make you weaker. And the most dangerous part, you often don't realize it's happening. You believe it's your decision, your instinct, your judgment, but sometimes it isn't, and that is where Phobos wins, not in the outcome, but in the process, because by the time you realize what happened, it's already over. And maybe that is what makes this story different from the others. Ira starts the conflict, Moros decides how it ends, but Phobos decides what happens in between. He is the moment that changes everything, the second where you either move forward or don't, and that means something important. Fear is not just something you experience. It is something that shapes your actions, your decisions, your future, which means it can be resisted, not removed, not destroyed, but faced, because fear will always be there. But what you do with it is still up to you, and maybe that is the only thing even the gods cannot control.